Kenya's president withdraws tax bill. Brazil decriminalizes possession of marijuana for personal use. North Korea claims success to develop multiple warhead missile. Yen weakens past 160 against the dollar. Antarctic faces melting tipping point. Gassy cows and pigs will face carbon tax in Denmark.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Friday, June 28th, and here are your top stories. In a sudden reversal Wednesday, Kenyan President William Ruto said he plans to withdraw a controversial finance bill that has sparked violent protests and a deadly government crackdown that saw 22 people killed Tuesday when police opened fire on demonstrators who stormed parliament minutes after lawmakers passed the bill. He said during a press conference Wednesday, listening keenly to the people of Kenya who have said loudly that they want nothing to do with this Finance Bill 2024, I concede. Citing widespread expression of dissatisfaction, destruction, and the loss of life. Ruto said he would not sign the 2024 finance bill and it will subsequently be withdrawn.
Thousands took to the streets, set parliament on fire, called for the president's resignation, and threatened to occupy his official residence. Protests grew in size and ferocity in the run-up to a parliamentary vote on the bill Tuesday, with various groups alleging that 50 protesters were abducted ahead of Tuesday's bloody violence. Kenya's economic struggles in recent years have sharpened inequality in a country with a young population that has become increasingly frustrated with the lavish lifestyles of Ruto and other politicians. During his victorious election campaign, Ruto had portrayed himself as a hustler and former chicken seller. Prior to Wednesday's reversal, Ruto was faced with few options. While analysts had posited that further bloodshed or negotiation with the disparate protest movement were potential options, few could have foreseen such a complete turnaround.
Brazil's Supreme Court on Tuesday voted to decriminalize the possession of marijuana for personal use, making the nation one of Latin America's last to do so in a move that could reduce its massive prison population. With final votes cast on Tuesday, a majority of the justices on the 11-person court have voted in favor of decriminalization since deliberations began in 2015. The justices must still determine the maximum quantity of marijuana that would be characterized as being for personal use and when the ruling will take effect. That is expected to be decided as early as Wednesday.
All the justices who have voted in favor said decriminalization should be restricted to possession of marijuana in amounts suitable for personal use. Selling drugs will remain illegal. Experts say the law was too vague and didn't establish a specific quantity to help law enforcement and judges differentiate personal use from drug trafficking. Police continued to arrest people carrying small quantities of drugs on trafficking charges, and Brazil's prison population continued to swell. Last year, a Brazilian court authorized some patients to grow cannabis for medical treatment after the health regulator in 2019 approved guidelines for the sale of medicinal products derived from cannabis. However, Brazil is one of the few countries in Latin America that hasn't decriminalized the possession of small quantities of drugs for personal consumption.
State news agency KCNA said Thursday that North Korea has successfully conducted an important test aimed at developing missiles carrying multiple warheads, a claim rejected by South Korea as deception to mask a failed launch. North Korea said the test was carried out on Wednesday using the first stage solid fuel engine of an intermediate-range ballistic missile. This dispatch came a day after South Korea's military said North Korea had launched what appeared to be a hypersonic missile off its east coast that exploded in midair. South Korea's military said a joint analysis by the South and the U.S. military points to the missile blowing up in its initial stage of flight.
KCNA said the missile succeeded in separating warheads, which were accurately guided to 3 preset targets, in a test that was aimed at developing multiple independently targetable reentry vehicle (MIRV) technology. South Korea, the United States, and Japan condemned the launch as a violation of UN Security Council resolutions and a serious threat, and warned against additional provocations in the wake of last week's summit between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin. On Thursday, the three countries began large-scale joint military drills involving Navy destroyers, fighter jets, and the nuclear-powered U.S. aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt, aimed at strengthening defense against missiles, submarines, and air attacks.
The Japanese yen hit a near 38-year low against the US dollar late Wednesday, raising expectations of another currency market intervention. According to FactSet data, the yen weakened to 160.82 against the greenback, breaching the previous record of 160.03 on April 29th, and reaching its weakest level since 1986. The last time the yen crossed 160, it subsequently strengthened sharply during the trading session, prompting analysts to speculate about intervention. Carol Cohn, economist and currency strategist at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, said we may be closer to another FX intervention.
According to a Google-translated statement, Japan's Ministry of Finance later confirmed the intervention in May, saying it had spent 9.7885 trillion yen, $62.25 billion, on currency intervention between April 26 and May 29. That was the first time the Japanese government had undertaken such a market measure since October 2022. Kong noted the continued decline in the yen prompted the country's top currency diplomat, Masato Kanda, to step up warnings. Reuters reported that Kanda said Japanese authorities were seriously concerned and on high alert about the yen's rapid decline. Kanda told reporters on Wednesday, "It is generally accepted that the current weakness in the yen is not necessarily justified, therefore believed to be driven by speculators." He added that authorities have been preparing to act against excessive volatility.
According to a study published in the journal Nature's Geoscience on Tuesday, scientists have discovered a new tipping point toward runaway melting of Antarctic ice sheets, caused by warm ocean water intruding between the ice and the land it sits on. While this type of melting has been previously studied, models used by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change to project the impact of global warming on the Antarctic have yet to factor in this phenomenon. The study also stated that they have systematically underestimated ice loss so far.
As ocean temperatures rise due to human-caused global warming, Antarctic ice sheets are melting, threatening a rise in global sea levels and putting coastal communities at risk. Antarctic ice sheets sit atop the bedrock and extend beyond the coast to float on the sea. Some areas of Antarctica are more vulnerable to this process than others due to the shape of the landmass, which has valleys and cavities where seawater can pool beneath the ice. Bradley, a researcher with the British Antarctic Survey, said, "Scientific models need to be updated to take into account the element of melt to better predict the risk of sea level rise in the future and prepare for it."
Denmark will task livestock farmers for the greenhouse gases emitted by their cows, sheep, and pigs starting in 2030, making it the first country in the world to do so, as it targets a major source of methane emissions, one of the most potent gases contributing to global warming. The aim is to reduce Danish greenhouse gas emissions by 70% from 1990 levels by 2030. From 2030 onward, Danish livestock farmers will face a tax of $43 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, which will increase to $108 by 2035. However, due to an income tax deduction of 60%, the actual cost per ton will start at $17.3 and rise to 300 kroner by 2035.
Methane levels, emitted from sources such as landfills, oil and natural gas systems, and livestock, have increased rapidly since 2020. The UN Environment Programme states livestock account for about 32% of human-caused methane emissions. New Zealand had passed a similar law set to take effect in 2025. However, the legislation was removed from the statute book on Wednesday after hefty criticism from farmers and a change of government in the 2023 election from a center-left ruling bloc to a center-right one. New Zealand said it would exclude agriculture from its emissions trading scheme in favor of exploring other methods to reduce methane. In Denmark, a deal was reached late Monday between the center-right government and representatives of farmers, the industry, unions, among others, and presented on Tuesday.
The answer for yesterday was A, presumed. In English law, a person is presumed innocent until proved guilty. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Gassy cows and pigs will face carbon tax in Denmark. Number 1, equivalent. 相等的东西，等量对应词。Breathing such polluted air is the equivalent of smoking 10 cigarettes a day. Number 2, emission. 排放物，散发物。The government has pledged to clean up industrial emissions. Number 3, potent. 有强效的，有影响力的，强烈的，影响身心的。The movie is a potent brew of adventure, sex, and comedy. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced next week. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.